Hey,
Hey,
I feel like I'm awake now.
I'm so glad.
Like,
One of the things that actually Charles and I were talking about before is that he almost turned us down. Mostly because you don't identify as a morning person.
yeah, not at all. Not at all. Not even slightly. And I was up. I know. And I don't know what it, I think it's your energy. Like, yeah, no. You know what I mean? Because, like, I was sleepy up until like 5 minutes ago when you started.
Well, I'm so glad you're awake and here with us. So today we're talking about procrastinate.
Yes.
And when Mara and I were talking about procrastinate, we were like, it tends to be a word that has like some negative connotation.
Absolutely.
And so it feels a certain way being like, hey, we think you'd be great to talk about procrastinate.
Nah, yeah.
But in our conversations, you don't think of it that way. Tell us a little more to that.
That's actually an interesting way. Yeah, I don't think about procrastination as like a taboo thing. Actually, I think it's the biggest part of like my practice and who I am as a person. Actually, I procrastinated on going to sleep last night, and that's kind of why I'm tired now. You know what I mean? But I was on the phone with like my best friend, and I was like, man, ain't nothing gonna like force me to be a certain way, no matter what it is. Even if I got an hour of sleep, I'm gonna do what I have to do because I say I'm gonna do it. But also, I'm not gonna let like time dictate how I go about it. And it's kind of messed up, like even when I say it out loud, because I'm like a walking contradiction in that way. Because I'm mad disciplined as well. Like my dad, like that was something instilled in me at a really young age, and like I did martial arts growing up, and so discipline is really important. And so I often like to do things and not put them off, but I often like to put them off. And it's kind of this thing where I'll work on something all day. Um, there's being an artist, there's no such thing for me at least as like I'm gonna just spend 6 hours straight on this one thing, unless it's like editing a video or something, right? And even then, I'm getting up, I'm moving around, I might stretch, I might like leave and do something else. And that flexibility allows me to be able to think clearly, to like go away and not feel like it has to be this masterpiece. It gives me the ability to kind of work within the practice and allow it to talk to me, because the work will do what the work wants to do, no matter what I want it to do. And so by procrastinating, sometimes it gives me just that wiggle room to just still have my peace of mind and not feel like, oh, if I don't do this thing right now, it's never going to get done. But that's really never the case. You're going to get it done even if it's the day before or 2 weeks earlier. It's just like what parameters and conditions you need to get out your best work.
Have you always had that relationship and mindset with procrastination?
No, no. Because like, again, like you grow up thinking it's a bad thing. Like everyone, don't procrastinate. Don't put off something you can do today. And I kind of equated the time again because I grew up like in high school. You used to have to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. That's wild to me right now. And so like my dad would like, it felt like he was kicking in the door. Like he would just boom, like, and he would wake me up and like he'd grab my leg and be like, ah. I was like, what is wrong with you? And then funny enough, when he left, I would roll back over go back to sleep, you know? And so because of that, and because of how like, you know, for 4 years, 6 years, however long you're in grade school, like you're upper like ninth, 10th, whatever, in middle school, I kind of was like, I'm gonna be the opposite of this when I grow up and finally get ownership or agency as much as possible. And so now, like, I take my time. Low key, I was late today. Not because I was trying to do it on purpose, but it was like, what am I about to wear? That's something I could have thought about last night. And I did. And then it was cold this morning. So I was like, oh, okay. You know, I just kind of was like, oh, I'll just be, you know, it'll be all right. Like even the best type of procrastination, I said I was 5 minutes away. I might have just got on 83. You know what I mean? But like, it's a part of the process that makes me who I am and just allows me to move the ways in which I like to.
How do you think you were able, you mentioned about like how getting older you wanted to do that, but like how did you kind of flip the switch of like fighting against it to like incorporating it into how you work?
It wasn't actually that hard, you know, because for a while I always felt like I had to be on. You know what I mean? I had to be on, whether it was at in undergrad, community college, I had to be on. I had to like make sure I did everything um, right or well or whatever. It kind of just like showed up. You know what I mean? Like it showed up in a way where, like, let's say for example, I'll leave the house and I know I need to leave it at a certain period of time. For example, this morning, but I'll move slow, and then I'll see an accident on the way to me going to where I have to go, and I'm bless you. I'll look at it like, oh no, like there's about to be an accident. There's an accident. You know what I mean? And like that could have been me. I know it's not like how anyone should necessarily think, but who says how we should think? But I'm like, yo, by me moving slow, by me prolonging the activity of leaving the house, it allowed me to have the space and time to move the ways in which I wanted to. And you can't beat that. Isn't that what we're all striving to do the things that we want to do as often and to the best of our ability every day? Or at least I think so. Or at least I'm trying to.
How do you think about that kind of mindset with your work and your process?
Um, it's kind of interesting, right? Because I make things. I'm a creative person. I'm an artist. I like taking photos and like drawing and like sculpting and using ready mades and things like that. But I try not to take myself too seriously. And I think when we think about delaying and prolonging things and drawing them out, it can kind of help you in that. Like it ain't got to be that serious every day of the week, every second of the day. It's kind of like self care. You know, like when you decide to push off that thing that you should have done, even though you know it was due at midnight and you know you about to fail, but somehow you get a good grade on it. It's that self care and that ability that gives you like freedom or perceived freedom, right? And so in the work, I let it do what it do. Like I'm like, even leaving Yado, I came back and didn't like anything I saw. And then I didn't do anything for like maybe a day or two, and then I got the itch again, like, yo, you gotta make something. But I'm like, yo, it's not that serious. So I left it alone. I made for a couple of days. I haven't touched anything. And I look at everything. I'm like, yo, make something. Like, yo, mess with that. Tinker with that. I'm like, it's okay.
So let's talk a little bit more, or tell us more about your experience at Yada, because you're fresh from it. Like it just happened.
So just a little background on it. I graduated in 2019 with my master's. And so you do the whole apply to everything. You apply to Harpo, you apply to Skowhegan, you apply to McDowell, you apply to Student Museum in Harlem, you all these different places. I got told no by everybody, actually. And I ended up getting Creative Alliance here in Baltimore, and I got Yado. And that was in 2019. And then I was teaching. I was teaching at Morgan State University at the time, and it was in October. And I was mad. I was like, man, why I gotta be teaching? Because I wanted to go. Because like I knew what Yado is and was. You know what I mean? It's like comparable to Howard University or Hampton. It's comparable to like going to Harvard or Yale. You know, just by name, like because every school is pretty much good at this point, right? It's just about finding where you fit in. And so I got it. I was like, da 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 da, I can't do it. I'm teaching. He was like, cool. We'll have to put you back on the wait list and circle back with us. I was like, all right, because you never know. You just never know. People are waiting. Like I have mentors and friends and colleagues who are artists who have never gotten this, and I'm like, oh, I got to push this to the side. But my mentor said they understand because people teach. So I circled back. They was like, pandemic hit. Oh my God, the pandemic hit, and so I lost a bunch of opportunities, just like many folks did. And so it like my 2020 was going to be my year. I just knew it. I felt like I was really close to getting to a position where I would be happy and sustain myself, be making work, but it didn't happen. And so 2020, I'm hitting them up just to keep my name in their ear, you know, the buzz or whatever. And then I'm thinking they forgot about it. They hit me up. What month is this? April? They hit me up. Listen, you know what I mean?
Time's very
Yeah.
short right now.
And so they hit me up in March and said, "Hey, we gotta open it, right? You can do 2 weeks or a month." I'm like, "We gotta open it." They told me the things I had to do to get it. I was like, and I was I procrastinated. I was laying on my couch. I looked at the email. I was like, oh, I probably can't even do this. But luckily, and not so luckily, we're in a pandemic, so everything's virtual, everything's online teaching. But I'm like, oh, this is online. All right. So that was my first thing. I was like, oh, I can finesse this, right? I can do it. Funny enough, I told my students, I was like, oh, I'm going out of state, da 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 da, whatever, whatever. They was like, oh, you need a test, a COVID test. And I was like, all right. If I can't get this COVID test soon, then it's not meant for me to go. And so I look up places. I think it's Express Care, something that's connected to Sinai, right across from Silburn. They were open every day, and you didn't need an appointment. I was like, ooh, okay, I'll go. And if I have, by chance, if I have it, then it's really not meant for me to go. I got the rapid test and I got the antibody test to see if I ever have it. Both were negative. I was like, oh crap. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not, so I was like, oh, I can go. And then I was like, And I still was kind of dragging my feet a little bit, like, all right, do you really? Because I was like, all right, how am I gonna get there? And I looked at flights. It was like $800 to go up to Albany, and then it's like a 45-minute to hour drive to Saratoga Springs. Then I was like, I was talking to my friend who went, and she told me she drove. And I was like, but she at the time I think she was in Philly or New York, one of them. And I was like, that's closer. So I map quested. I actually did a performance about this too. I map quest out of all the things I could have did. I map quested.
Not Google Maps.
Not at all. MapQuest.
I did not know MapQuest was still.
I MapQuest. I was like, so how? I don't even know why I did it. Like I was just like, there were so many other things I could have did to do it, and I did it. I Googled it. I MapQuested it, and I was like, all right, It was like 5.5 hours. I was like, how am I gonna do this? That's a little ways away. I haven't driven like that. When I was in Philadelphia, I used to drive back maybe once a month, twice a month. I was like, ooh, do I got the stamina for it? Because driving long distance is just like stamina. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it though. I pack up, pack all my things up. I'm like, all right. I had to get mentally prepared. So part of the way that like I deal with procrastination, like I left on Wednesday. I had to be prepared on Saturday mentally for whatever I was about to do on Wednesday. Because it don't work no other way.
Sure, yeah.
Like I had to be a whole month prepared to be here at 8 a.m, and I was still 5 minutes late, but I'm here mentally, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. And because I stay up late, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna leave at 4. So I actually taught that night, but I teach at 8 p.m. I teach at Micah, and I teach international students. And my students are in China. And so it's 8 p.m. here, it's 8 a.m. over there. And I taught. Before I did, I took a nap. Took like 30-minute, 45-minute nap. I was like, all right. And then I taught. We got out at like 9. They did studio work. I think I like cleaned up, took a shower, and then I played Call of Duty because I needed to kill some time.
Sure.
And then I went back to sleep. I went back to sleep for like an hour and a half or something. Got up at like 4:21, brought my last things down. I was on road. And I was like, I'm gonna get there. I was the first one there. I got there at like 9, 7 in the morning. I was like, nah, the only way I'm gonna do it, I gotta do it on my terms. And if I don't do it on my terms, it's not gonna get done. And so I was like, I know I'm up late, I'm early in the morning. And so I just need some sleep, a little bit of sleep. And I was like, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world. It was one of the best experiences I ever had. Like I've never been in a space where artists have been cared for so much. Like so much so. We were fed lunch and dinner. We had a pantry where we can get food for breakfast. The sheets, the bed, the water pressure, just like basic needs that like I never take them for granted. So when I go anywhere and I get a nice shower, I'm like, yo, this is a nice shower. And everybody be laughing. My homeboys be laughing. I'm like, yo, what's you in the shower? I mean, listen, good shower pressure change your life.
It's so real.
You know what I mean?
So real.
And so, won't it though? You be like, yo, and like the bed was so comfortable. They had a person come in on Thursday to clean my plate. I was like, what is this? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I just didn't know it was possible. And it makes me think, like, why are so many art spaces not like this? Why are there not many art spaces that are like this, like to be created?
It's pretty amazing and so simple about how much care
Yeah,
and like caring for a community can really change an entire experience.
absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing about it, a lot of my friends here didn't know about it. I was like, wow. Like, and so, and I send out whatever information I get. I'm still on a list from the new school. Oh, I hope it don't take me off. Like, and I ain't been there in forever. I didn't even graduate from there from grad school, but I'm still on the list. And from that list, I use that information. I send it to whatever friends I can think of at the time. I'm saying, yo, send this to your sources, your resources, because there's so much you don't know. I didn't know how much money I could get for grad school until I had someone fighting for me to get money for grad school. Like, and it's just simple information that no one wants to share for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And by me going, now 5, 6 other people know that it's possible. Like, I don't think I'm special. I mean, listen, I was up there. You have to apply for the Guggenheim, but one of the people I was up there, great artist. She won the Guggenheim while I was up there.
Wow.
Like, someone had just got a book publishing deal while I was up there. It was actually wild. Like, I was surrounded by all this talent and wealth of knowledge. And I'm like, it's little me. They're like, nah, you just been home. I'm like, nah, y'all are like, I hype up everybody, no matter who they are, because I'm like, yo, you're amazing. Like, we have to celebrate the small and the big victories. Like, no victory isn't. Everything needs to be celebrated.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think also just reflect upon that as your own self too. It's like you deserve to be there. As well. And there isn't reason. It's not just by luck that you were in that space. So what? I mean, it sounds like an incredible experience.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about your work, and we have some images that Henley can share too with our folks joining at home. If folks are just now coming to your work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love you to talk a little bit more.
Do I know what image is, or it doesn't matter?
I mean, we can show you which image it is.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't see that on the screen though, Henley. Here we
Oh. So is that the first one?
Yeah.
All right. And you said talk about the work?
Yeah, talk about your work.
It's cute. Yeah. You know what I mean? Cause like my students say that. I'm like, why are you saying it's cute? But no, I'm good. So all right, I'll start here.
Yeah.
So David Hammons made approximately 500 body prints. When I found this out in grad school, I was like, oh, I want to do something like this. And so I started making these drawings that are about 38 by 50 inches. But when I was in grad school, they were just like a kind of thing that I was doing. And then when you graduate, you know, they tell you go out and be an artist, but then you're trying to figure out what that even means. And that's not even taking into account who you are, like your cultural background, what you look like, how you identify. Like, that's not taking into account any of this thing. The art world loves to say it's progressive, but really, you know. And so when I got back home, before I moved into Creative Alliance, what do? You do things of convenience sometimes and affordability. And so I would get 1 or 2 sheets of this Stonehenge paper that were about, it actually went up in price. It used to be like 9 something, and now it's $10, right? I would buy 1 or 2 sheets, so that's $20, $30. And I would just draw. And I would just do abstract marks and gestures on it. It was never like flowers and everything. It was just me like wanting to get some ideas out. And because like I could afford like $20, $30 here, and as far as like storage space, it wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? I could just like roll it up, or I can just put it in a corner somewhere. But it kind of escalated. I don't even know when it escalated, but it did. And I just kept going. I kept drawing. And I look at them as sketches, right? I look at them as me just getting out ideas and trying to get the preciousness out the work, because that's one thing I've battled with and friends have battled with. Like, you think something is so important, right? But really it's just getting out an idea. But what messed you up is when people tell you they like it, or you might get a sale or something. You stop doing all the critical and rigorous thinking that you were doing, because now you're like, oh, I can make a profit off of it, at least the way in which I see it. And so I'm constantly battling with myself with that. And so I just started doing sketches and things like that. And so the work shown are all of flowers, various types of flowers. They're just like, to me, they're just like a flower that you would do as a kid or something. I don't try to render them any particular way. And that started in 2019 as well. Like, a lot of things happened in 2019. And so when that happened, I was thinking about conditional love and adoring. And it started because I was thinking about my relationship with my father, and like the things in which I know about him didn't necessarily come directly from him. And so I was like, what are conditions placed on a person to add value to their life, to like why you love them, who they are, and things like that. And we don't actually know a lot of the times the ways in which like our parents, the superheroes, until you learn that they're just human beings, like kind of were conceived, right? And so I just started arbitrarily making flowers, like just making flowers. And it was about conditional love and thinking about conditional love. And then I started to springboard from that idea of my dad, even though it's very much about him in so many particular ways, about the conditions in which people love me or accept me or deal with me. Being a black person, let alone a black guy, I understand I have certain privileges. I can't deny that. That's just the realities of the country that we live in. And so, but the conditions in which people appreciated me while I was in grad school were completely different. In the building, it was a small school. I was appreciated because, you know, I'm an artist, I'm here, I'm in grad program, da 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 da. But outside that program, outside that building, it wasn't the same love from like non-people of color. It just like white folks just didn't give me that same love. And so I started to think about the conditions in which I like was being appreciated. Like I become the good Negro because I'm trying to be a scholar or trying to do X, Y, Z. And so that's another point that started to springboard off of that. But then it was also thinking about the conditions in general placed on the black body. Like, for instance, when folks say, "Oh, I have a black friend," in particular, white folks say, "I have a black friend," and so that one black friend is then appreciated because they know them. But then other black folks do not have that same appreciation for whatever reason because they don't know them, whatever, they're not related. Same here. Like we place these values and conditions on people, and that's how we kind of like, "Oh, I love you because I know you." "Oh, we're great because I know you." And but outside of that, we don't have that same patience, that same understanding. And so I think that's a part of the reason why so many things are the ways that they are, these conditions. I mean, yeah, racism is a disease, absolutely. But the ways in which to go about it is very much conditional. Like if you're raised in a house that doesn't care about anyone but white folks, that's a condition.
Sure.
And so there's a certain value placed on a particular type of person. And you don't expand that until you force yourself to like think outside of your own self, your own privileges, your own station, whatever. And so then I was thinking with celebrating life, right? The idea, what is, I always butcher this. Give people their flowers while they can smell them, right? Like whatever that means,
Yeah.
right? For anyone. And so it's kind of like the work. So that's the springboard moment, right?
Yeah.
Like giving people and celebrating them with these flowers, right? And so all these thoughts are being kind of contained subconsciously and consciously when I'm making work. And my flowers never die. Like if you make an inanimate flower, a plastic flower, or a drawing of a flower, it never actually dies. And you can then present that and share that. And so for a while, I was giving out drawings because I had given out posters before when I was in grad school and sold some. I was giving out these drawings. And part of it was like my step into performance art. Because when I was giving out these drawings, I was having conversations with people I hadn't seen. Like one of my, a dude I grew up with who, ironically, is like an older brother, but shorter than me, right? I grew up with, me and him talked for maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. And like, we hadn't seen each other, one, because of the pandemic, I just hadn't been around. I was in grad school, and it was like one of the best experiences I ever had. Same with everyone who picked up a flower. And that was the stipulation. Like I mailed maybe 3. One was like my brother who's in Georgia. One was like a person who took a risk on me and was like my first ever artist talk was in her class. And I forgot the other one was something else, but the point of it was that you had to come get it. You had to come get it. You had to set up a time. Like this was all strategic in the ways in which I was thinking about the exchange of this. And I just wanted to give this thing away. Part of it is wrestling with the ideas of access. Who has the ability to have access to a work of art, right? And because I am an artist, it is now a work of art. And so now people are adding value to it based on the condition, right? If I didn't have these certain labels or whatever, maybe they might not have the same value. But so I'm dealing with access, like who gets who. So now there's at least 60 people that now have a work of art and have some type of care for it. and may not have had that same care if they never got this piece. Like it's different than getting a stock thing from TJ Maxx or something. You know what I mean? It's just different. And so because you create this value, now you start collecting and you start realizing anyone have access to this, and that's a part of it too, dealing with that. And so um, coming back full circle to the works being shown, my work is almost completely about grief, 100% about grief. It's about death, and it's about memorials. And these are conversations and things I've had with really close friends who I show work to before it hits social media, who have questions and are talking about it. I still think about this one comment a friend of mine said, and she was like, she said, "Are you going through something?" I was like, "What do you mean?" Like growth or something. She was like, "Your flowers are always open. They're always blooming." And I was like, "Oh, I had never thought about this. This is like months ago. This is like, what year? It was like at least 6 months ago." And she said this, and I still think about this. And for me, it's way more important to have conversations about the work with people who don't necessarily identify as a creative or artist, because that's who usually sees the work. It's not a bunch of art historians looking at the work, not all the time at least. It's everyday people who are looking at the work, or everyday people who may not consider themselves creative or something like that. And those are when I get the best conversations. Same with like thinking about it as a memorial, thinking about these being used for a funeral, things I had never thought about, but were there. Like the grief is there always. Like I'm grieving myself, I'm grieving friends, I'm grieving people I constantly see being killed who look like me or look like my sister, or deal with it. I'm trying to like navigate what it means to be a black person in American culture, a black man specifically. And so how am I not dealing with grief? How am I not thinking about what it means to just survive and just be a person?
I love what you're saying, like so much of what you're saying, and just almost the duality of it too. Giving someone their flowers at the same time, seeing the beauty in both like the celebration and the grief.
Absolutely.
I love that. We want to give some time to allow our viewers to ask some questions. So if you have a question for Charles, you can go ahead and type it directly into the chat on Facebook or YouTube, and then we can highlight it here on the screen. I think it works on Twitter too. Technology. Then I'll be able to put it up here on the screen and ask Charles about it. So go ahead and put in those questions, please. We'd love to hear from you. I'm looking now. I'll hold up this. Who has questions?
Ouch.
Sean, we have a question live in the room. Do you say you have a question?
No. I said everyone should have a question.
No.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
So when people are kind of warming up their questions, I'll start with, having a great conversation here, but a question is, what's next for you? What's in the pipe? What's going on?
Well, I'm in this show with a phenomenal artist, Sonia Clark, at Goya Contemporary at the end of May. I'm in a group show. All right, so the show is, we're both having our own individual solo exhibitions. And I'm in this group show exhibition at Housing Gallery in New York right now. There's a possibility of being a show later in this year, and same at the beginning of next year. I've kind of been procrastinating and taking my time. Like I looked up the definition when I came over here. I'm like, yeah, I'm dragging my feet. Because something phenomenal happened in 2020. Artists of color started to air out all the institutions. And it made me like say like, yo, I need to chill out, because there's some harmful shit happening. Mm-hmm. And for a while, no one was saying anything because they didn't want to be blackballed. They didn't want to like, you know what I mean? You lose by literally speaking up for yourself. You lose opportunity because people think you're an issue. Yeah. And this is for everyone.
Hard to work with.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But what you did was wrong. Mm-hmm. And so I started seeing that a lot. And then it became overwhelming for me because who do I trust? There were even things that I heard happen at Yado. And so it was like, I asked my friend, I was like, she was like, go. You know what I mean? You have to be aware of this. We're dealing with history. We're dealing with it. Like, I'm flawed as hell, right? And I think we all are. But if we don't try, and the only way you can try is like by knowing, right? By knowing what happened. And so for a lot of organizations, I just stopped applying. And so for the last, I don't know, the last thing I applied for, I didn't get, might have been a portrait contest, and I showed one of my photographs. But I'm dragging my feet on that. I'm trying to take my time because even in school, maybe my mentor did, but no one actually talks about the labor that is like required of applying to something.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you got to research it. You got to figure out who's on the board now. You got to figure out what type of artists they've shown or what type of things that they're
Strategy.
absolutely because you want the best shot, and the best shot isn't even a fair shot for a lot of people. And so you, ain't it though? You know what I mean? Like it's not cut and dry. It's not black and white. It's hella gray, hella murky. And if it wasn't for artists like speaking their truth about what happened to them, I mean, I would just be blindly applying to everything and wouldn't think about things differently.
Yeah. We have a question from, I believe it's pronounced Colpies from YouTube.
Chris.
So he asked, Sir Charles, what is the significance of the colors you use to make your flowers?
I use color.
Proud of you.
That's my man. Like his birthday was yesterday.
Happy birthday.
I use color as a distraction. Right. So if the work is about grief, everyone can kind of ground themselves in aesthetics, right? Even if I don't make work for white people, you can ground yourself based on your own experiences and aesthetics and the prettiness of something. And so how do you have a conversation about the work if it's about death? And sometimes it's simply making something so pretty that no one can deny it. And so I use color as a distraction. Like it is completely out of convenience. Oh, I have these pastels here. I'll use these pastels. I'm not thinking like, oh, sometimes there's a thought as far as like, I want this yellow to be with this red or something like that. But it's very much a distraction for me, at least.
So our next question also comes from YouTube, from Lene. She asked, for the future.
Linnea or Lynn?
Or Lene. I'm sorry.
That's the homie.
For the future, Dr. C. Mason III.
Yep, that's exactly who that is.
As an educator,
Oh
how do
man.
you help your students with procrastination,
Oh,
especially during the pandemic?
oh my God. As an educator, I can't believe people call me that. No, because I know really phenomenal teachers and professors and faculty members. And I think I'm not nowhere near that. I think she's a phenomenal teacher and professor. And so the only thing I do with my students really is I talk to them. And I say like, yo, this ain't the end all be all. So for instance, let's say I'm talking to my drawing students and like we were doing some assignments. I teach drawing, but I teach it through in an abstract way. Sounds like you can kind of wrap your head around it, right? But when you're teaching students who mostly understand the figure, the body, and things being rendered, they're like, what is abstraction? Everything is, in a way, abstraction because we're looking at it through our own lens, right? And so I forced and pushed them to do things that they were constantly complaining about and uncomfortable with, to the point that they literally would wait till the day before and ask me for help. I'm like, yo, I can't help you. I was just really honest. I can't help you. I tell my students after every class, no matter what I'm teaching, I am here to be a resource to you. Like, that's why I'm here. I'm not here to be hard, to be harmful, to disrespect you. I'm here to be a resource. And only if you ask questions can I help you. And I tell them I don't accept late work. And I tell them that, like, if you need me, I am here. Like, for any of my students, like, for my art history class, they'll send me, like, some of them are doing. The funny thing about it, the group I have right now, I don't think there are any art majors. And so there's this nursing student who wants to do her responses as drawings and collages. And I was like, all right, if you do it, I'll just give it to me early. And she's done some really amazing work. I honestly think it should be STEAM. Like, we got to get this STEM thing out of it because art is critical to the ways in which we think about space, conditions. It's rigorous. I mean, some of the best drawers are people who are scientists and doctors. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, some of the best ways we can conceive thought. It creates it. It allows you the space to be imaginative. You know what I mean? But yeah, so as far as that, I just be really honest with my students. Like, yo, I'm here. But if you set yourself up to fail, I can't help you.
question also comes from YouTube. 77 Chanel. Do you have any advice on dealing with imposter syndrome or not feeling creative enough around other creatives?
Oh man, imposter syndrome. I think I deal with that every day. You know, I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't think. For instance, going back to Yato, I never thought I should have been there. I'm fresh out of grad school and I got in to the thing that James Baldwin has been to, Alice Walker has been to. I'm like, what is this? Like, why am I here? I don't deserve to be here for whatever reason. I'm like, so I think there's a luck to it, but I kind of lean into that. I lean into the fear of not being adequate enough. I lean into the fear mostly because no one actually knows what I do in my family. You know what I mean? They understand art as like this one thing or whatever. And so I'm constantly dealing with whether or not I'm good enough because they're not asking me how's the art going. You know what I mean? I'm constantly battling my own self-doubts every day. And certain things have confirmed it for me that I can do this. But that's external. Like you gotta work up. Like it's just, in a way, it's like courage, right? It's the willingness to do something that you're 100% scared of. Like, and if I wasn't scared, I don't think I would do it. Right? I love to do this, but it scares me every day because of how toxic this shit is, because of how hard and harmful it is, because of how cutthroat it is, because for some reason people think artists are like this hippy dippy shit, but we're not. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's weird. It's really weird. Like I grew up playing sports. I grew up doing certain things. I'm black. Like, you know what I mean? And I've done all these things and that's important, but like it's not, you just gotta lean into this, right? Yeah. Because I'm doing something no one expected me to do. People always ask me, how's that art thing? I'm like, ooh, that art thing? How's that engineering thing? How's that I want to be a nurse thing? You know what I mean? Like, what is that? You know what I mean? What is this diminishing value of what I want to do and what I love to do? But you know what? If I ever get in a museum, everyone's gonna be like, oh my God, I knew you win. I'm like, dog, come on.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about what defines success in the art world.
Absolutely.
But I must say, there are a couple people asking for your autograph in the comments.
Who? No, they're not. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. No.
So our next question comes from Alana Nicole, who's joining us on Facebook.
The homie.
So she says, I first met Trey while he was doing community engagement work at an initiative called the Over East. I'm just wondering, one, if he knows how much of an inspiration he is to me, and two, how important are those grassroots community engagement initiatives to the trajectory of an artist? Because I'm thinking coming from people and working with people is so important.
Listen, I don't think I inspire anyone to be, if I'm being 100%, like, you know what I mean? Because like,
you inspire me.
So I'm gonna just say that, I'm gonna leave that there. But Over East, Micah Place was everything to me. I learned a lot about editing through viewfinders. I worked with some really cool people. I met some really cool people. It taught me community, right? Like, you have to kind of be taught that, at least for my generation, you do, right? Because it's not just like lovey-dovey anymore. You remember like when like grandmas could sit on the street and they still do it, but everybody knew everybody, right? Everybody could discipline the kids and everything. Everybody did. It was very community oriented, and that's just not the standard anymore, right? And so being an artist, you learn that you're a proponent of gentrification. Like corporations and things love to use us to beautify places and all this, that, and the third, to do the work that schools no longer do because art isn't in schools anymore. And so they always have these programs and this, that, and the third. And so it just allowed me to like learn that you as the artist got to do the work, right? You as the person and creative, whatever you're interested in, you have to do that work. You have to, like, the community may not even like you or know you yet, but you still got to keep showing up. You just got to show up. Like, and they showed up for me. Green Mountain West Community Center, Miss Keisha has showed up. Like, I always go back to the people who were there when I was still figuring it out, who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, who got work or was like, oh, I want you to do this thing from the very beginning. And she's one of those people. like Green Mountain West over East, all these communities have been great and loving and open to me. And so I will always give back to the best of my ability whenever I can. Like I have to, because I'm not here because of me. Like it took a lot of people to like do X, Y, Z for me to be where I'm at. And it would be ignorant of me to think it's all me.
I think community is so important and it's so powerful to hear you talking about it in that way. It just really, I think it's a value that we try to instill here at Creative Mornings too. It's just like we're as strong as our community is.
Absolutely.
So like everybody who's here, you're a part of this community now. It's like
That's why we're here.
that's why we're here. So I really, really love that. We have, I think, time for one more question before we kind of wrap it up. Oh my goodness, there's somebody. Sorry. I'm like trying. I'm sorry. So sorry if we didn't get to your question. I'm like trying to.
You could combine 2 or 3.
I think. Well, I think this one coming over from Facebook. So over from Arlene over on Facebook. Did grief become your muse as a result of a particular event, or just the sum of your experience?
Everyone has one, right? Everyone has one. And what I mean by that, everyone has a moment where there was a Black person killed through police violence that made them feel some type of way, that forced them to move, right? And I had mine. I won't say their name just because it gets very like, you know what I mean? But I had one. And I think when you wake up, and not to be quote unquote woke, but when you actually just wake up and start realizing that like it's real out here, you have to start acknowledging yourself and the things that you're taking in, right? Social media, the media, all these things are good, bad, whatever. I mean, you know, there's criticisms about all of it, right? But no matter how you cut it and slice it, we're taking that stuff in. Because even if I don't, let's say I get off Instagram right now, today, and I'm like legit done, I'm still going to hear from my friends, from somebody, or someone's going to tell me, watch this thing on the news. They're going to send me this clip or something. And so we all have to kind of deal with that. I wouldn't even call it my muse. I would call it me trying to figure out how to get out of depression and deal with anxiety and constantly seeing Black people being killed. Like, I would think it's me trying to figure out how I can survive. You know what I mean? I think there's like, I really don't think we celebrate each other enough. And so it's something that's there. It's something that's very much about within the work. But everyone has one. And so my one happened like 2014, 2015. And that was when I was like, yo, I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? And I remember there was a time when like everybody in Baltimore was like, oh no, that's not going to happen here. And it happened here. I couldn't believe that. And the fact that it's still happening, I can't believe it. I refuse. Like, I feel like I'm going crazy. How is it still happening? Yeah. Like, really? No, like seriously, like, how is it still happening? Like, it's like, it's at this point, that's a disease.
Sure.
An incurable thing that no one wants to admit is happening. But yeah, that's kind of how, you know what I mean?
No,
that's kind of,
it's really powerful. And I think that I'm so thankful for this conversation today and just you opening up and just really sharing more about not only what procrastination means to you, but also just your experience and your work. I think it's just been such a Friday morning treat because you love mornings.
Oh my God.
Here in the space with us today. So yeah, let's give it up again. I'm actually gonna jump off camera because I want everyone at home to get your selfie with Trey right now.
Do I pose? Like, what do I do? Like
Whatever you think right there.
So yeah, if you're at home, please get your selfie with Trey right now. Tag us on social. Just, this was a great talk, and we want you to see your selfie moment. Mario and Sean's doing a selfie over there. Yeah. So please, again, just thank you so much.
No, thank you.
But yeah, also speaking of flowers a little bit, every month Local Color Flowers donates a beautiful arrangement for us, and it's our gift You're a speaker,
Really?
so these flowers are for you.
I don't even remember the last time I got flowers.
Yeah.
Oh, it was,
Always giving them.
yeah.
Always giving them, so we're trying to
Oh,
give
wow.
you some literal and
Yeah.
figurative flowers
Yeah.
today. So
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I want to put on everyone's calendar next month. We are excited to have Damar Jones join us from 6 Point Pictures right here on the Creative Morning stage, and that's going to be on May 28th. So please save the date. And yeah, again, we'd love to see what this looks like on your end. So tag us on social media at Baltimore_CM. And let's close out today as we've been doing the past couple times, which I know Mario thinks is a little hippy dippy, but I just want to do a
Not all artists are hippy dippy.
collective breathing together.
Yeah.
Let's ground ourselves so you can like put your hand, on your legs.
I
On
gotta
your
be
stomach,
good, they can see me.
wherever. So, all right, let's take a breath in together. In. Out. In. And out. One more breath. In. And out. Thank you again for joining us today. Thank you to Charles. Thank you all the volunteers. We hope that you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next month with Damar.
Yeah.